Are you ready? There's a poem, said Mr. Chen, the yogi, where preparation is mentioned before eating. He smiled and referred to his notes and then began to read. After hearing the first line, the listener and the writer also smiled, for this is what they heard. A loaf of bread, the walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar beside are very good indeed. Now if you're ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed. Mr. Chen laughed heartily, an infectious laugh in which we both joined. But, he continued seriously, a question here is being asked. Are you ready? Upon examination, our whole life seems to ask this question. Even in very hurried moments, as with a boy crouched on the grass before a race begins, what question is asked? Are you ready? Even in a moment like this, there is preparation. So this is from Meditation by Kamalashila, and he's quoting Mr. Chen, or Yogi Chen as he's called, a meditation teacher. He goes on to say, we may also look at our life more broadly and realise that being fully prepared for anything at all, let alone meditation, is a stage we still have to reach. This is why each moment of our life is asking the question, are you ready? So are we ready for life? Not always, I think. We're particularly thinking of meditation here, but more broadly, do we wake up in the morning and feel ready for the day? As an example, when we're not fully ready, I don't know if you might have similar experiences, but I can think of an example when not being fully committed to a meeting that I'm going to attend. And I don't mean just mentally prepared, but I mean being up for it, being ready for it. Otherwise, you can go in kind of half-heartedly and not really be fully engaged, perhaps be surprised with what's going on, caught unawares, not really being up for it. And I can sense in myself that for work situations sometimes, and meetings and such like, it's not just a matter of being prepared in terms of doing the preparatory work, but being in the right state, being ready for it, being up for it. And so it begs the question, are you ready to meditate? Have you, when you sit down to meditate, have you really set aside the rest of your life? If not, you may find most of your time in meditation dealing with it. So this is a question we may ask ourselves before each meditation. Am I ready? There's an excitement to this question, I think. You wake up in the morning and think, am I ready? It's kind of, it opens up the day. Almost anything can happen. Can we be ready for it, whatever may happen? Rather than kind of being a bit reluctant and not engaging with our life, with our day, with our morning. But getting up and thinking, am I ready? And being ready, perhaps. So perhaps at each moment of our lives we can ask, am I ready? So the topic of this first 2 weeks is the mindfulness of breathing, as I've already said, and it is in some ways perhaps the most basic meditation. The breath is, of course, always with us, and it naturally reflects our state. Our breathing changes when we're agitated, angry, relaxed, aroused, frightened. But our breathing can also influence how we feel. So relaxation exercises being one common example. So these, perhaps always, I'm not quite sure, but certainly most often involve the breathing in some way, and may be related to anxiety, panic attacks, or just wanting to feel more relaxed. So they almost invariably deal with the breath. The breath can also be a really powerful thing. I don't know if you've been watching, as I have, Feel the Freeze with Wim Hof on the TV recently, where, I don't know if you know Wim Hof, but he's the Iceman. So he has this thing of like Maitre Jyoti, who went swimming today in open water, which must have been quite cool, if not cold. Wim Hof loves to do things like that. And there was a program called Feel the Freeze on quite recently that you may have seen, where a load of celebrities, and unusually these were celebrities that I recognised as well, all but one of them, I knew them. And he dunked them in, well, he didn't dunk them, but he got them to immerse themselves in barrels of icy water and that sort of thing. And he did these breathing exercises with them, where they were just led on the ground and they were breathing really deeply and then held their breath for a while and then breathing. And they were in tears and they had all these physical reactions. It was quite remarkable. And it brought up all these really powerful things from their past. Quite amazing. But he also did things like getting them to take cold showers and so on, and it was all about the breath, or a lot of it was about the breath, controlling the breath, just staying in control. And so I avoid, I don't like the cold, and cold water. I don't like cold showers or anything like that. I just avoid that like the plague. But I thought, no, I'm going to give it a go. So when I've had showers recently, at the end of the shower, having washed and everything, stick it on cold for 30 seconds. And at first you're like, trying to catch your breath and everything. And then I remember what Wim says. And Wim says, be in control of your breath. And so you try and, just breathe as naturally as you can. And it does give you a measure of control. Again, it's still cold, but it was quite remarkable what he's been doing with the breath as well. So we can see with the breath how the body and the mind are intimately linked. The breath is like a tether between the body and the mind, through which the mind can influence the body and vice versa. The mindfulness of breathing then also introduces us to the word mindfulness. Mindful. Concentration on a particular thing without distraction. So what should we be mindful of when we're meditating? There is, of course, our body and feelings or sensations. By that I mean the bodily sensations. So typically in the West there are 5 senses: feeling, touch, seeing, hearing and taste. But actually there's many more senses than that. For example, temperature. We all have awareness of temperature. Body position, known as proprioception. So, for example, if you close your eyes, you can touch your nose with your finger. There, I don't know where my finger is. There, I touch my nose. And that's because we have proprioception, which is the sense of where our bits and pieces are. You know. Then there's orientation. We know how we're oriented. We know if we're upside down, for example. Probably not hugely relevant in meditation, one hopes. But nevertheless, we do have that sense of orientation. Hunger, thirst. So these are all sensations that we feel beyond the ordinary 5 sense organs. And there are various other ones as well. Then, in addition, there are emotions. It can be a bit confusing when we say that we feel our emotions, because you can also feel our sensations. So I try and stay away from the word feel too much to avoid confusion. So with emotions, we're talking about anger, happiness, joy, compassion, sadness, and so on. But of course, these can be felt in the body as well. Fear, for example, could be strongly felt in the body. Heartache, we talk about, because you can actually feel heartache in your body, in your chest. But nevertheless, although there can be bodily counterparts, there are emotions, so we can be aware of how we are emotionally. And then there are thoughts. We can be aware of our thoughts, which of course drift into our mind. Traditionally in Buddhism, this is the 6th sense organ, because things pop into our mind and can stimulate us. So we can become aware of our thoughts, hopefully without engaging with them. So let's do a little meditative exercise now. So we'll just meditate for a few minutes. And so what I'd like to suggest is just sit comfortably, quietly, and become aware. Notice all of those different sensations that you become aware of. So all those bodily sensations, not thoughts, not emotions, just simple bodily sensations. So I'll ring the bell at the end.